Hello and welcome to Firstpost Live, where we bring you the day's top 4 stories from across the world. I am Grishin Galan, live from the Firstpost studios. Let's begin with the headlines. At least 140 people are dead and 127 remain missing after Typhoon Kalmegi unleashed catastrophic floods across central Philippines this week, making it the world's deadliest storm of 2025 as it now heads towards Vietnam. Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum calls for sexual harassment to be criminalized nationwide after filing charges against a man who groped her while she greeted supporters outside the presidential palace in Mexico City. President Draupadi Murmu meets India's Women's ODI World Cup winning team at Rashtrapati Bhavan, congratulating the Harmanpreet Kaur-led side for their historic triumph, a day after their interaction with Prime Minister Narendra Modi. U.S. Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy orders airlines to slash flights by 10% at 40 major airports, citing safety risks from the record government shutdown that's left air traffic control staff stretched thin. And Tesla shareholders are set to decide today whether to approve an unprecedented $1 trillion pay package for Elon Musk, a deal aimed at keeping him at the helm as he pushes the company's bold bets on AI, robotics and autonomous tech. We begin with the latest from Russia. President Vladimir Putin has said that Moscow could consider resuming nuclear weapons testing. This comes days after US President Donald Trump first said that Washington must begin testing the nuclear weapons. The Russian president convened a high-level meeting of the country's Security Council. Putin said he has instructed the defense and foreign ministers to draft proposals on the possible preparation for the nuclear tests. The Russian president also said that Moscow has always observed its obligations under the Comprehensive Nuclear Test Ban Treaty. But Putin was quick to add that if the US or any other nuclear power breaks the moratorium, Moscow will not stand aside. Listen in.
Yeah. I am instructing the Foreign Ministry, the Ministry of Defense, the Special Services, and the relevant civilian agencies to do everything necessary to collect additional information on this issue, analyze it within the framework of the Security Council, and make agreed proposals on the possible start of work on the preparations for nuclear weapons testing. Russia has always strictly adhered to its obligations under Comprehensive Nuclear Test Ban Treaty, and we have no plans to withdraw from them. At the same time, as I stated in my address to the Federal Assembly in 2023, should the United States or other treaty signatories conduct such tests, Russia would be compelled to take appropriate reciprocal measures.
Now, Moscow has not conducted a full-scale nuclear test since 1990. When it was still the capital of erstwhile Soviet Union. The United States last tested a nuclear weapon in 1992, while China and France followed in 1996. India tested its nuclear weapon in 1998, followed by Pakistan in the same year. No country except North Korea has officially carried out a nuclear explosion in the 21st century. But with Donald Trump in the White House, the global conventions on the testing of nuclear weapons are facing a moment of significant shift. Last week, US President Trump said on social media that he had instructed the Pentagon to start testing nuclear weapons on an equal basis with Russia and China. It remains unclear whether Trump was referring to tests involving actual nuclear warheads or simulated ones. But the message clearly caught Moscow's attention.
Are you talking about literally resuming underground nuclear detonation tests?
You'll find out very soon, but we're going to do some testing. Yeah, other countries do it. If they're going to do it, we're going to do it.
Okay, you can't clarify whether you'll resume.
I'm not going to say yet. I mean, I know exactly what we're doing, where we're doing it, but other countries are doing it, and if other countries do it, we do it.
The order came just days after Russia on October 26 successfully tested its nuclear-powered cruise missile. The cruise missile is called Buravestnik and is capable of carrying nuclear warhead. President Putin claims it to be a weapon that can pierce any existing defense system. That test, conducted shortly after a nationwide nuclear drill, sent a clear message from Moscow that Russia, in Putin's words, will never bow to Western pressure over the war in Ukraine. These developments mark a new phase of escalation in tense relationship between Moscow and Washington, one that's already strained over the war in Ukraine. The renewed talk of nuclear testing is fueling fears of an arms race and potential breakdown of long-standing non-proliferation norms. For now, no dates of nuclear testing have been announced, but Putin's latest orders, days after Trump's remarks on nuclear testing, have put the world on alert. Now shifting focus to Nigeria. The West African nation has dismissed US claims that Christians are being persecuted in the country. Abuja has described the accusations laid by the Trump administration as fundamentally misinformed. But even as President Bola Tinubu's government pushes back against Washington's criticism, it says it remains open to cooperation on security. The country's information minister said Nigeria welcomes support from foreign nations, including the US, in addressing the complete elimination of terrorism. Listen in.
The government of President Bola Tinubu is well appraised of the level of anxiety created by the designation of our country as the country of particular concern, or CPC, by the US government, and the threats of military action by the President of the United States, following a wrong perception and misrepresentation of the security challenges in our country.
The diplomatic row began last week after the US designated Nigeria as a country of particular concern. This is a label used by the State Department for nations accused of violating religious freedom. Trump said the move came in response to what he called, quote-unquote, the killing of Christians by radical Islamists. Nigeria's northeast has been battling Boko Haram and Islamic State-linked insurgents for more than a decade. The violence has killed over 40,000 people and displaced nearly 2 million, according to the United Nations. Nigerian officials argued that this is not a religious war, but a fight against terrorism. President Trump, however, has threatened possible military strikes against what he called Islamic terrorists in Nigeria on November 2. Trump announced on his Truth Social account that his administration would halt all aid and assistance to Africa's most populous country. Trump repeated the same threats on November 5.
If the Nigerian government continues to allow the killing of Christians, the USA will immediately stop all aid and assistance to Nigeria. We're going to do things to Nigeria that Nigeria is not going to be happy about and may very well go into that now disgraced country, guns are blazing, to completely wipe out the Islamic terrorists who are committing these horrible, horrible atrocities. I'm hereby instructing our Department of War to prepare for possible action. If we attack, it will be fast, vicious, and sweet, just like the terrorist thugs attack our cherished Christians.
President Trump's those comments have angered many in Nigeria. A leading Islamic clerk said on November 4th that Trump's comments risk inflaming religious tensions and that the White House is misrepresenting Nigeria's ground reality.
Now it's coming to be like between Muslims and Christians. Even though there are a lot of Christians who have known that the narrative is wrong, it's a representation of reality on ground. Many Christians know that. So Nigeria should reciprocate whatever the tune of Trump's allegations are, because he did it not in a diplomatic way.
Complicating matters further, Nigeria currently has no ambassador posted in Washington. President Bola Tinubu recalled most of the country's envoys last year as part of an administrative review, and replacements are yet to be named. That absence, Nigerian Information Minister has suggested, may have allowed separatist groups in Nigeria's southeast to shape Trump administration's perceptions. Nigeria, home to more than 200 ethnic groups and a near-even split between Muslims and Christians, has a long history of coexistence, even amid sporadic violence. For now, Abuja is pushing back against what it calls misguided foreign criticism, while keeping a cautious hand extended towards Washington. Now let's shift focus to South Asia. A new ceasefire between Afghanistan and Pakistan is set to begin on Thursday. as negotiators prepare to meet in Turkey. The talks aim to prevent renewed hostilities after last month's deadly clashes along their shared border. Officials said the truce remained fragile, with deep mistrust still dividing both sides. Afghan and Pakistani negotiators are expected to resume third ceasefire talks in Istanbul today, following mediation led by Turkey and Qatar. The meeting is aimed at finalizing the terms of the truce after weeks of heavy fighting. Turkey says negotiators had agreed in principle to create a monitoring and verification mechanism to prevent further escalation, but key terms are still under discussion.
Pakistan would continue to remain engaged in the mediation process and hope for a positive outcome for the 6th November talks. Pakistan highly appreciates the constructive role of brotherly countries of Qatar and Turkey. They've been making their best efforts for an amicable and peaceful resolution of the issue.
Relations between two neighbors had become increasingly fragile, as both accused the others of violating past peace agreements. Islamabad claimed Kabul was sheltering Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan or TTP terrorists who carried out attacks inside Pakistan, an allegation the Taliban government has repeatedly denied.
Neither we have invaded anyone nor we will do it. We will defend our country, which is our right, and we will stand against any kind of invasions.
Now, the latest round of violence began after explosions in Kabul on October 9. The Taliban government blamed Pakistan for airstrikes near its border and inside Kabul, while Pakistan neither accepted nor denied the allegation. The clashes quickly escalated into heavy cross-border fighting in mid-October. Afghan officials said more than 70 people, including civilians, were killed in Afghanistan, while Pakistan's military said 23 soldiers had been killed and another 29 wounded in the attacks. Both nations had reached a ceasefire deal in Doha on October 19, but the second round of talks in Istanbul, mediated by Turkey and Qatar, collapsed after just 4 days without substantial progress.
कल हमने फैसला किया कि 48 घंटे की जो वक्ती यानी इंटरम सीज़फायर हम करेंगे। 48 घंटों में अगर वो जो हमारी जो बिल्कुल जायज़ शराइत हैं उसके ऊपर वो बातचीत करके मामलात को तय करना चाहते हैं तो हम उसके लिए तैयार हैं। बिल्कुल ये पैगाम उनको कल दे दिया गया। किस्मती से तमाम काविशों के बावजूद ये ना हुआ।
Following the collapse of the peace efforts, Pakistan's Defence Minister Khwaja Asif issued a strong warning to the Taliban government. He said Islamabad would not need to use even a fraction of its arsenal to quote-unquote completely obliterate the Taliban regime and push them back to the caves. Asif's remarks came soon after the failed 4-day dialogue in Istanbul further strained relations between the two sides. The ceasefire talks followed months of deteriorating ties between Islamabad and Kabul. Pakistan had long accused the Taliban of harboring the TTP and turning a blind eye to cross-border attacks, while Afghanistan accused Pakistan of violating its sovereignty through repeated internal attacks. The border between the two nations had remained closed for weeks, causing heavy economic losses on both sides. Analysts said the renewed fighting exposed deep-rooted mistrust and competing regional interests. But before the Taliban's return to power in 2021, Pakistan had been one of its strongest backers. But today, Islamabad views the Taliban as a destabilizing force along its western frontier. A movement it once helped empower, now seen as a growing security liability it can no longer control. And for our final story today, we turn towards Saudi Arabia. A brief video filmed inside the Grand Mosque in Mecca has ignited widespread debate online. The video shows a security officer confronting pilgrims near the holy Kaaba. The 59-second clip, which surfaced on social media, has triggered strong reactions, with many questioning the officer's behavior and the challenges faced by security personnel in maintaining order at one of Islam's holiest sites. The footage shows a security officer dragging a woman who was seated only a few meters from the Kaaba. Moments later, he appears to push a male pilgrim dressed in ihram who seems to question or intervene in the officer's action. The man seen attempting to film the exchange can be heard saying, and I quote, "Don't touch me." This is before the security personnel physically pushes the man away. While the clip does not reveal what led up to the confrontation, its rapid circulation initially with a handful of views has now gone viral. The video has drawn a wave of anger online, with many social media users condemning the officer's behavior. Others shared personal experiences from their pilgrimages describing similar encounters with what they called arrogant or disrespectful. One user called the incident unacceptable and urged Saudi authorities to take strict legal action for such disgraceful behavior in a sacred place. Some went further, saying the guards forget that these are holy lands where voices should be lowered and not raised, adding that such behavior tarnishes the sanctity of Kaaba. Many called for better training to sensitive officers do their duties within the sacred mosque. Saudi Arabia authorities responded swiftly. In a statement, the Mecca region and Saudi public security confirmed that the special forces for Hajj and Umrah security had intervened swiftly to address the matter. They posted the statement on X. Another video from the past is doing the rounds on X, where a soldier is seen brutally assaulting an elderly female pilgrim. But the details and date of the incident are unknown. The incident has reignited a wider debate on how to balance crowd control and reverence in the sacred mosque, a space where millions gather each year in faith, but also under the watchful eyes of security and increasingly social media. That's all for today. Thank you for joining us. I am Gushin Galan and we'll see you right back here at the same time. Until then, stay informed and stay tuned to Firstpost.